What's up, guys? This is Jared with Flow Pros Plumbing, and today I'm going to show you how to rebuild a toilet tank. So what I want to do today is walk you through step by step the pieces of a toilet, how to put them in, what to look for if they are giving you issues, and how to fix them. Now, these pieces of the toilet usually go bad whenever you don't have a water filtration system. They get older, they start to corrode, start to erode, and they have issues with breakdown inside of the tank. Now, all of these components, besides this tank to bowl gasket and the handle, are going to be sitting in water. So eventually they break down from the underside. These have diaphragms in them. The flappers can be plastic, and they start to have issues whenever the hard water starts to eat up the fixtures. Now, a toilet rebuild, these parts are going to run anywhere between 50 to 100 bucks. You can get all these at a local supply shop. As long as it's a standard toilet, you can get Corky, Flushmaster, you name it, you can get this stuff anywhere. If you do need specialty parts for a Kohler, you need specialty parts for a Toto, then you're going to want to go to a place like Hydrologic. We have a Hydrologic in Pinellas Park. It's where we do all of our main supplies. I got a couple buckets somewhere of them, but Hydro's worked with us at Flow Pros Plumbing since we started. I have really good reps there. They're an incredible company. So if you guys do need parts and it is not something you can get at the store, you definitely want to swing into Hydrologic. They'll take care of you. Now, they're not sponsoring this video by any means, but I figured I would give that shout out just because they've done a great job for us and they continue to be an awesome partner. So, all right, so I'm going to walk through the basic functions of a toilet real quick, and then we'll get into the rebuild section of it. So the fill valve is what allows water to come into the toilet. So this is your supply tube that hooks onto your flush valve. And as the water comes into the toilet, this ball will slowly fill up. And once it gets to the top and it stops, the diaphragm in the top shuts. So that's going to shut off the toilet. If it does run after it is completely full and this ball is all the way up, you may have a leaking diaphragm, or you may have an issue with water going into the flush valve, possible issues with the flapper letting out water, which is making this go down and bob like this, and then eventually it'll refill again. If you hear hissing inside of the toilet, it could be a fill valve issue, but most times that's going to be related to a flapper, which is letting water out. The hissing is this filling back up and stopping, and then after a couple minutes, it's gonna do it again. So I'm gonna move on now to the flapper. So the flapper sits on the flush valve. This is your flush valve here, the center component inside of the tank. So as your flapper sits down on the flush valve, it lifts up to flush the toilet, allow water through, and then it closes. Now, a lot of times whenever the water eats through these flappers, it'll start to erode on the bottom side of this, and I'll do a close-up whenever we get a little bit into the toilet rebuild side. But when the bottom starts to erode, this will get a little bit of that in there. Get a little bit of this popping up like that, and then that's what causes the toilet to start to run. And then when it fills up, it'll seat, starts to recede water again because it's leaking through the tank, and then it'll fill back up again. Next, we have the tank to bowl gasket. Now, this is the gasket that is going to go underneath the toilet to seat the tank to the bowl. Now, this gasket is very important. If you ever have issues with the toilet leaking underneath the tank to bowl, then most times it's a compressed tank to bowl gasket. I obviously know this one's new because I just bought it. I bought it for the sole purpose of this video, but if you do have issues with the tank to bowl gasket, taking the toilet off, replacing the tank to bowl bolts, and then replacing this gasket is crucial, because if you don't do that, it's going to continue to leak. Lastly is the handle. We usually don't have a lot of issues with handles. Sometimes they can erode out, give you issues, I guess maybe getting stuck possibly, or this nut comes loose. But a lot of times when we do our tank rebuilds, we're just rebuilding the tank completely. That way we can eliminate any old components, put all the new components in. And this one here, it's a side inlet, which means it's going to go through the side of the tank here, not on the front. So you want to make sure that you get these in the correct fashion. This one here is side inlet. You can see the bend in it, which I'll show you guys up close, but that's going to go in through the side of the tank. The normal handle is just going to come straight across. I don't have one right now because I'm only working on a side handle toilet, but you get the gist. Now, one other thing I'll say is if you do fix the tank to bowl gasket, don't forget to replace the flush valve. It sounds silly because it may not be going bad, but it would be counterproductive to take the whole tank off, replace the tank to bowl gasket, and not do the flush valve, especially with how old these things are. When one thing goes, it's usually time to rebuild the whole thing. All right, guys, so first off, we have the fill valve. So this black gasket here, you want to make sure that the flat edge is seated up against the fill valve here, and then your ridged edge is going to be going underneath the tank. And then on the underside, we're going to tighten down the nut, make sure that this is cinched tight. Now, usually I'm going to get a pair of channel locks, and actually I can do it now because they're right here. But I'm going to grab my channel locks. I'm going to give it one good tighten underneath. Actually, I'm gonna give it 2 good tightens. Yep. Now you can feel it. You don't want to go too tight on that nut because if you do, it may end up causing issues with cracking down below. That is the fill valve. That is exactly how you're going to install the fill valve. And you want to make sure whenever you're installing the fill valve that you have this correctly installed to the flush valve. Now I'm going to show you that now. All right, guys, so for this, we're going to stick this inside of the tank here. So we're going to push it in. Now, whenever you're aligning it, you do want to make sure that this is in the correct position. So this is perfect. This is exactly where I want it to be at. I'm going to hold my hand on the top of the flush valve here, and then I'm going to cinch my nut up on the bottom to get it to seat correctly. Now, you do usually need a bigger wrench to make this seat. I don't actually have that on me right now. Unprepared, boo! Boo, why are you unprepared? You know what? Whatever. All right, so now that I got that cinched up, you can see I can still see both of the bolt entries where I'm going to put my tank to bowl bolts. Now on the underside, those are going to be down here. These are your tank to bowl bolts right here. I got 2 of them. All right, guys, so what you want to do is whenever you get your bolt in, you want to push it through, and the bolt is going to go between the tank and the bowl. Now I have my other bolt here. I'm going to stick this one in on the other side and then show you guys on the back side how these cinch up. All right, so now that both of those are in, you can see that they cinched in correctly. The flush valve is not in the way, so now we're going to put the gaskets underneath and then make sure we tighten everything up correctly. So you still have to put your hand on the inside to hold the bolt in place as you tighten down the backside. So I'm going to show you guys that here now. You're going to stick your hand in, make sure it's tight. We're going to get our first gasket on, and then I'm going to tighten down the nut. Now this, I like to usually put about 4 tightens down on it, gets it very cinched up underneath. Get it hand tight first. All right, so I'm going to tighten this down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that's cinched up correctly, and I'm going to do it on the other side to show you guys one more time. So once again, stick your hand inside the tank. We're going to put this gasket on here. I'm going to put my washer on. I'm going to put my nut on. Grab my channel locks again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now that's cinched up correctly. All right, guys, so now I'm going to show you how the tank to bowl gasket fits onto the tank. It's this simple. Blam! That was easy. So once again, the tank to bowl gasket is the gasket that holds this watertight between the tank and the bowl. So I'm going to put this on now. I'm going to do it on the toilet that I have just to show you guys how it seats, and then we'll finish off with the rest of the install. I'm going to set this back down. Now on the underside, once again, we have a couple of our nuts and washers. These are the last nuts and washers that we have. See, it's a wing nut washer, so it should be pretty easy to tighten up. First, I'm going to put this washer underneath. So this is going to go there like that. Take our other nut and cinch it down. These ones you can actually get hand tight and it'll cinch this tank up correctly. So you can see on that side, I'm going to get this one cinched down. Now guys, whenever you do it, also don't tighten the one side down all the way until you have your other side on. That way you don't have any issues with the tank pulling up and then you can't get your washer and nut on correctly. You know it's good to go whenever you go to shake the tank and it's not moving. All right guys, so the last 2 pieces of this tank rebuild are going to be the handle, which I'm going to show you guys right here. So this is the handle. Now on the handle, we also have another nut. This is a plastic nut. We have a gasket. Both of those are going to go inside of the tank here. And I'm going to show you guys how to apply this handle now. Now this is going to go into the tank like this. You can see your threads in here. And what you do now is you're going to put your black gasket on. I'm going to cinch this up on the side. We're going to get our white washer. Put this on like this. And then we're going to go back towards us. Once again, it's reverse threads, so it may trip you out a little bit. And then that is installed. Now, one thing I do want to say is with this type of installation, you want to make sure that your fill valve is out of the way. So when this flushes and when it comes back down, you don't want it to catch onto your fill valve because if it gets underneath the rim right here, it may end up causing the toilet to run. You don't know it because sometimes it'll seat incorrectly, but that's the perfect position to where we want that. Now, lastly, we have our 3-inch flapper. So we're going to go ahead and place that down there. Now guys, when this clicks into place, you're gonna hear it. Watch. And those are on. Now that is a good connection. If these ears break, you can always go and get another flapper. If they break on the edge here of the flush valve, you have to replace the flush valve. Connect on like that. You got a little bit of slack in your flapper. And what we'll do now is we'll flush it, and you can see it lifts up and it seats correctly. Guys, I'm so sad that our time is coming to an end. I love teaching you guys these fun tips and tricks on toilets, but guys, all good things must end. Remember that. Lastly, we're gonna put our supply line onto the fill valve. You can see that there. And then we're going to stick our clamp onto the flush valve. And we want that going inside of the flush valve. We want the supply to be going directly into the flush valve here. You can see that there. And guys, that is the tank rebuild. Other than the supply line going to the bottom of the fill valve, that is a complete toilet rebuild. Guys, so that is the wrap up of a full tank rebuild. Now I'm in St. Pete right now. It is burning hot out and I'm in my warehouse trying to do this video. But guys, until next time, I appreciate you watching. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff so we can get all this information out to everybody that needs it. And once again, thanks for watching. Hope to see you on the next one. Peace.